Hey guys, welcome into another episode of From the Wing. I'm Christian Clark, the Pelicans beat writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Adam, Labor Day weekend, I did a road trip up to Louisville for a wedding. Lovely city. Spent like 20 hours in the car. Had a lot of time to think. Kind of was turning my attention towards this upcoming Pelican season and just thinking about the right way to think about what they're going into in year 5 with Zion and BI still together, year 3 of Willie Green, year 5 of David Griffin. And I wanted to run this analogy by you to see if this makes sense.
Fire away.
I'm expecting to eat a good meal at a restaurant, despite the fact that I've eaten there 4 times already. I've gotten 1 decent meal and 3 pretty bad meals. The head chef at, let's call it Gales, is going into his 3rd year. I've got mostly positive things to say about him. He's hired a new sous chef who has a great reputation, by the way. Everyone loves the sous chef. Very innovative, really speeding things up back there in the kitchen. The ingredients, I think, they're for the most part pretty good. A lot of them are locally sourced, Adam. I've got some okra. I've got some Creole tomatoes. I've got some Louisiana strawberries. And you know what I want to do? What I'm expecting to eat for the entree in my 5th meal at Gales?
I have no idea.
I want some surf and turf. They've got surf and turf on the menu. I've tried to order this before. It looks promising, but they have not been able to get it right 4 times in a row. How do you mess up surf and turf 4 times in a row? Sometimes they've got one of the items on the menu, but not the other. Sometimes it's flip-flop. Sometimes neither of them are available inexplicably on, Friday nights, like prime time. So I want to eat a good meal at Gills. I am expecting to eat a good meal at Gills this time, despite my tortured history there.
I think we need to dig into those meat contracts. See who's sourcing that meat. I think that might be part of our issue here.
In this terrible analogy, Zion Williamson is Kobe beef and Brandon Ingram's lobster tail.
I don't know. I would agree if you asked me which one would be which. I would also say that BI would be the lobster tail. I'm not quite sure why. I guess we would just both agree that Zion is the beef. I think everybody would universally agree that Zion's the beef. Yeah, that was a hell of an analogy. But although you got to kind of work your way around to get to the end of that thing, because dear God, I think we're 3 minutes in already. It is kind of on point. You're going back to the same place. You've had an adequate experience, but nothing that exciting. In fact, it's been disappointing a few times. You were really excited. Menu looked good, all that. Vibe of the place looks good, all that. Well, actually, we need to be careful. The restaurant is actually pretty shitty looking. It's probably in the bottom rung of like well-designed restaurants, but it's the chef and the ingredients. You're going farm to table. I get it. You're looking for a little farm to table surf and turf action. I would say you're insane to go back there. Why would you go back and think that's going to be any better? I mean, maybe they'll swap out the Kobe, and you'll get something a little leaner. And
Adam,
that's easier to source.
I told you they have a new sous chef, and his name is James Borrego.
I got you.
By the way, the stuff you hear right now, and like this is peak, like we're throwing optimism on everything season, and that's okay. It should be. Like I'm trying to hype myself up for the season. Like the things you hear are like Borrego's going to be great for the Pelicans. Like he's getting in there and he's looked under the hood of the offense and he thinks he can make it better, and he's excited about the pieces he's got to work with, and him and Willie like already have chemistry because they've worked together. So all the stuff you hear there is good. But yeah, just when I look at, this team and this staff on paper, I'm like, this should be good. I like this. I just need to, actually experience the good meal. I need it to actually happen. because it looks good in theory.
And you need the gratin to also be available, and he's got a little bit of a meniscus going on, so you do need the accoutrement to also meet the need here. And
Yeah,
sadly,
we should maybe talk about the gratin. Is that what you
yeah, the
that's what you were
gratin.
comparing Trey Murphy to?
Yeah, I was trying to make him the sexy side to because you're not going to have a third meat on that plate, but you'd have like the sexy side that everybody gets. Like the potatoes are gratin, but you call it, if you're being fancy, you call it a gratin. So you have the gratin, and you have nice bechamel, little burnt cheese on top. That like toasty cheese on top. You want to get like each little equivalently cut disc with like just that nice little bit of crispy cheese with the creamy cheese underneath. Tons of potential. Could maybe outplay the starters. Could maybe be a little bit better than the lobster tail. Fits a little bit better with your plate. Like you can kind of mix and match, and that gratin's always going to do well for you. It's always going to have a lot of upside. I think I just settled it. I think Trey Murphy is the gratin.
It was a pretty big bummer on Tuesday. We found out that from Woj, Trey Murphy hurt his left meniscus, in his left knee during a workout at the Pelicans practice facility. From what I've been able to gather, and I think Woj put this out too, Trey is going to have other opinions before he decides exactly what to do here. What I've heard is there is a very good likelihood that some sort of procedure will have to be conducted here. And I think the question is, what type of procedure is going to have to occur here? Because it's, a scenario where they could go in and shave a little bit of the meniscus off, and that's like a 6 to 8 week timetable. Zion Williamson, back before his rookie year, he had that sort of thing done, and it was supposed to come back in 6 to 8 weeks. Larry Nance Jr., right when he got traded to the Pelicans, had that thing done, and I think he was back in 7 weeks. So there kind of is that 6 to 8 week timetable, but then there's also where they could stitch the meniscus back together, and if that happens, then we're kind of talking months there. I think the Twitter doctors are putting out maybe that's a 2-3 month recovery timetable. So I think a best case scenario, you're probably looking to get back Trey Murphy beginning of the regular season, and then I think some of the worst scenarios, you're looking to get him back. I don't know, December, January, something like that.
Allow me to share some personal expertise. I have 2 tears in my right meniscus as we speak. Have had them there for years, and they've gotten at various times a little bit worse. I've had to get consultations on them to see, did I need surgery? Did I not? Here's the gist with the meniscus. It is a pillow, essentially. It does not perform an essential duty. However, when frayed, when torn a little bit, it can induce a lot of pain. That's why you hear of a lot of people just getting it like shaved, clipped, and it really depends where the tear is, because this is like a 3-dimensional disc. So you could have a tear across the meniscus. You could have, a lot of people have, just over time as you age, you'll have fraying in the center of the disc because of the bones coming together and making contact and causing friction in there. You'll just wear away the center of the disc. Or you can have like an impact related tear, which is usually on the outer edge, either on the medial or lateral side. It's usually like a sideways going motion with your knee, medial being like the interior of your body and lateral being on the outside. The gist here, the options with a meniscus just like aren't great. If it is one of these edge tears, the things you're thinking about are like, how long is the tear? Where is it located? The biggest struggle here is that there's not a lot of blood flow in the meniscus. It's kind of a crapshoot to heal. That's why you don't hear of a lot of people going like, I'm dubious that there is going to be a repair in a 3-month timeline, just because like a doctor would tell you and told me that even if I did that, I can't guarantee you'll get enough blood flow there for it to heal. It is not a guarantee, which is why so many people opt to just shave it, trim it. The drawback there, it doesn't regenerate. So whatever you lose, you lose. And if you keep going back and you keep cleaning it out, eventually there won't be a whole lot there, and you start to put stress on more of the area around that. So there's like my run-in with meniscus injuries, my own Twitter doctor, my George Clooney impersonation there. But it's likely that he's gonna get like a shaving or a clean, and if it's not, then the type of injury that he had, that meniscus, must have been pretty gruesome. Because the one thing that people threw around when Zion got hurt that was just absolutely out of the question, in a drastic circumstance, you can do an entire resection of the meniscus. You can pull the whole thing out. That is not going to happen. That is not a thing. That was not a thing for Zion either. And obviously he had weight bearing and like continued motion concerns with his that Trey doesn't have, because Trey's just not built in a way that's that concerning. So I would expect it to be like, I didn't even get upset when I saw it. I kind of missed it all throughout the day because I was working. And at the end of the day, I was like, it'll be ready for the start of the season.
Okay. Yeah, look, if he has like a similar recovery timetable as Larry Nance Jr., like it's possible he's back in October, and
yeah,
fantastic. I think one of the storylines that I was going to track, for media day, which is going to be in October 2nd, and training camp, what is the starting lineup going to look like? I think one of my questions for Willie Green is going to be like, do you plan on having an open competition for your starting five? Like, is Trey Murphy going to be under consideration? And I think, he's going to be recovering during this time, and maybe that kind of takes him out of that if there was even going to be some sort of open competition. So I think that's kind of a bummer. Like in my mind, like I would probably bet on the Pelicans starting the same five that they did in opening night last year of CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, Jonas Valanciunas. But I thought there was at least like maybe a small chance that Trey could worm his way in there. And like this kind of, like almost takes that down to zero in my mind. So that's a little bit of a bummer. I think the other thing too is like if Trey misses, I mean, it's just so early, so we don't really know. But like if he misses 10, 20 games or whatever, they can't really replace that outside shooting, or it's going to be difficult for them to do that. Jordan Hawkins, I hope maybe you're ready. You could help a little bit there, but like one of the stories from last season was how dependent the Pelicans were on two players, CJ McCollum and Trey Murphy, to make their threes. Both those guys were up above 200 3-pointers made. The guy who made the third most threes was Jose Alvarado with 83. It was like CJ, 211 made threes. Trey, 203 made threes. Jose Alvarado, 83 made threes. So they don't have a ton of shooting depth behind those guys. And that was, a reason for the Jordan Hawkins pick. And I think he can really shoot the ball physically. I'm interested to see how he's going to hold up. But that's a huge loss. Besides, Trey's good in transition. He showed a lot of confidence off the dribble as last year progressed. But it's going to be very difficult for them to replace that shooting.
Yeah, I think you just kind of, the glaring thing that jumps off the page there when you read out those names, the constant conversation revolving around Brandon Ingram and the lack of desire to shoot the three, because you would expect his name to be third at least.
Well, yeah, part of that was a games missed thing too, because he only played in 45 games. If he had played in
Jose missed half the season almost.
Yeah, if he played in a few more, he'd have been up there. But yeah, I mean, like, look, I think I included that in the tweet that like they've tried to get him to shoot more threes and he won't do it. And man, it got dunked on a little bit by like, pretty good NBA media people too. I was like, okay.
Yeah, you basically, all of our like basketball masters of nuance jumped in there and just started railing on you. Like we were like one or two ringer NBA people away from away from a like Mount Rushmore of dunking on you don't know Brandon Ingram's ball. Look, when Steve Jones comes for you, you just gotta take it. He is, a hardcore X's and O's guy, former team employee. He has broken down those videos for teams. He has scouted teams. He has scouted players. He really knows what he's talking about. I think generally speaking, like people don't like it when you say anything negative about a star player. And Bi is like one of those controversial players in the current vein of the NBA because he doesn't have the most analytically pleasing profile of player.
And because he hasn't won, and
Yeah,
you can debate, and I'm not even like wading into that right now, but like
yeah,
he just like like he played with LeBron and it didn't go well, and LeBron immediately computed like, nah, we're getting him out of here, and he went to a different situation and looked a lot better, and I think he has like contributed to winning more as his career progressed. Like he is getting better and impacting winning more, but at the same time, I think what is he going into year 8? And the team he's been on with the most wins was last year with 42. So it's like until, like fair or not, he's winning a little bit more. I think that'll some of that stuff will persist as well.
it would also be nice to play for the same coach repeatedly with
Yeah.
the same players repeatedly, which we're just maybe starting to get to, and have the system remain the same. And I think, part of the battle here, I think one of the strengths of Willie Green is he leans on these guys to be themselves and play within their own game. When you do that with Bi, that's not, the three ball and pulling up and everything is not what comes naturally in his game. And that you kind of need to create those looks for him and tell him to take them more than just ask him to get into ISO and create a three. He likes to get the ball inside the 3-point arc and kind of do his work in there. He has his baseline fadeaways. He has his quick turnarounds, his little Dirkish turnarounds. He that's where he works. And similar thing. Devin Booker, got a lot of the same criticism. Chris Paul shows up, they win. We stop talking about Devin Booker. We talk about him as an MVP candidate. So like these things can turn, and it can still turn for Brandon. We've seen like major passing acumen from him. We've seen him start to defend far better than he has, especially in FIBA, where he's like a big. He's like an actual big in FIBA, turns out. But yeah, interesting to see. Hopefully Borrego's cranking out those threes and we have a way to compensate. I'll go a little spicy and say that I'm one of the few people that I just didn't buy that at all. Like if you asked me a percentage, I would have said 99% chance that Herb Jones is in the starting lineup on night one. I just think regardless of what all of our opinions are and what's swirling around the team, Willie Green has told me over and over and over and over again who he is and what he trusts. And I believe that he would not allow that little defense out there in a starting rotation. And I don't think it really matters as long as Trey is playing more minutes per game, which like last year, I think he landed at like 28. If he should push up to like 32 when those come, I'm not necessarily concerned about, because like we saw last year, you kind of play you're kind of rolling the dice. If you do start him, then you don't have any production in the second unit, and he gets more favorable matchups in the second unit and can really get off. So I think a little mix is fine. I think getting over 30 minutes per game sounds great. I don't really care if he starts or not. But it's
Yeah,
just
I would say that I would agree with you. Like even before Trey's injury, I would have placed a lot of money on Willie starting Herb, just because I think like he likes having his defense in there. I'm kind of in like I'll see it when I believe it territory in terms of like Willie throwing out a starting lineup of Trey over him. But let's stay on the FIBA thing. So Team USA is going to play Germany on Thursday in the semifinals. If they win that game, they'll play the winner of Canada, Serbia on Sunday. I think overall it's been a good tournament. I mean, like Team USA kind of brought its B stars to this tournament, but it's a lot of fun players. It's a lot of good players. Like I've mostly enjoyed watching this team. They played 5 exhibition games, I think 5 group games, and then the one in the knockout round so far. They've only lost one of those games. It was the last one in group play, which it was kind of inconsequential. They'd already clinched a knockout round game. They lost to Lithuania. Brandon Ingram started off in the starting lineup, and a couple of games ago, Steve Kerr moved him to the bench. I think he has played 2 of his better games with Team USA these past 2 games. He's looked a little bit more like, the Brandon Ingram that a lot of Pelicans fans know, but, he really struggled in those first 4 games. And so, like, I kind of look at it this way. Like, Brandon Ingram, I think we saw the best use of him is like you got to let him create a little bit. We saw that in the last 20 games last year. That was to me, up probably the best basketball we've seen Brandon play in the NBA. He was very, very good. I also remember the first 62 games, which were like not good and kind of uninspiring. And to me, how I'm looking at this is like, okay, can you succeed when you aren't placed in the optimal role for you? Because like only the very best players are gonna be in that optimal role over and over and over. And it's like, can you go and it's like, well, this isn't a perfect role for me, but I can still like impact winning. So to me, it was a little disappointing from that aspect. They basically when he was in the starting lineup were using him as like a stretch four, kind of like in the mold of like Carmelo Anthony with Team USA. I think how he could have added value is like, I'm going to be a killer catch and shoot guy and space the floor. When I get the ball, I'm going to attack very quickly. I'm going to rebound. Jaren Jackson Jr. is really struggling to rebound the ball. That's a skill like they could have needed, and then just like impact the game defensively with your length. He did a little bit of the defensive stuff here and there, not really rebounding a whole lot. So I don't know. It was disappointing to me from that aspect that it's like, okay, this isn't ideal for you, but like, can you still go out there and make a really positive impact?
I'm going to make the BI stands happy here. I think Brandon's caught a little bit too much grief in FIBA. I think he kind of became the very easy whipping boy for the team because of the potential to move out of the starting lineup, and kind of because walking into it, I think there was a lot of expectation that because he had more experience than Ant in general, that there'd be this possibility for him to have like the Carmelo glow up and really get some like international respect. And then you put him in a 5-man starting lineup with 2 ball pounders, and he's the third guy to touch the ball. Steve Kerr, to me, like offensive genius, can make all those pieces work, sure. I think we appeased egos with the starting lineup a little too much, and that he was destined for a backup role if you're going to start him next to Ant and Jalen Brunson. They don't pass the ball. Yeah. They don't. So, it would have felt completely different to me. I think it could have worked if Tyrese Halliburton is your starting point guard. And I think he should have been your starting point guard this entire time. That's neither here nor there.
I would agree with that completely. I mean, Halliburton has been, like one of the best players on the team. And when I look at the starting lineup, I'm like, okay, they just like they have, like they had Edwards and Ingram in there and Bridges. It's like they need a guy who's just gonna like spread around and keep it popping. And it's like it's a Steve Kerr offense. Like I don't, he loves that stuff of like playing 0.5. Like that's kind of Willie brought that idea of. That was one thing the Warriors really practiced over there, like play quick, move without the ball. So I'm with you. Like, I think, I do think that like, it would have looked better for Brandon more consistently if Halliburton had been the starting point guard over Brunson. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, it would have changed the tone of the offense. You wouldn't have the clock wasting. You wouldn't have like Halliburton on that team is not going for 20 ever. He's just never going to do it because he is just, he's like the last great floor general point guard. He's the true one, the one that orchestrates the game, takes advantage of space, knows where the team's strengths are, and exploits it time in and time out. Like he is that guy. Looking at who was written on paper, I just would have never guessed that Jalen Brunson should be the starting point guard for that team. And I certainly wouldn't have guessed that the solution to the offensive downturn is to throw Josh Hart in the starting lineup. Like add another Nick and we've fixed everything. It's not what I think is how I don't think that's how it should work. So yeah, I just wanted to say like there's been a lot of conversation about Brandon. I understand the struggles. I would also like to note that like he's also had some nice defensive spurts where he was able to play like some real like rim defense in ways that I've never seen from him that I hope kind of stick with him a little bit. But yeah, I think naturally, like there are some guys, real hoopers know, it's kind of like, it's kind of a joke, but Ingram's kind of a hooper. Like he plays with feel. He's not out there doing a math equation in his head when he plays. Like he's looking at what's in front of him and he's trying to kill you. Like that's how his brain goes. I think it would have worked a lot better with Halliburton. So I just wanted that to be said. I think Jalen Brunson was a mistake, and I think it could. And if Jalen Brunson does continue to be like the starter next to an Ant, who is still Ant is still not like this polished on ball guy. That is still like the area of expansion in his game. He's had like the big outburst, and he can really score, but he's not like a this incredible on ball decision maker for other people. That's not a thing yet. So I just think it's interesting to have Brandon be like the third guy to touch the ball, and then he also gets like all of the offensive blame. It just seemed a little outsized. It has been a bad tournament.
Well, I don't know that it was offensive blame. It was like, I mean, like you're like 6'9" with a 7'3" standing reach. It's like, can you help rebound? I don't know. It's like, can you? I know this isn't an ideal offensive role for you. Like, can you contribute in other ways? But maybe that's unfair. I don't know. But like when it's just like I've covered him for 4 years now, and it's like when I think he really has like articulated, I want to be great. And it's like, okay, well, like like sometimes things aren't like perfect and you still have to like succeed anyway. Like that to me is like part of being great. And like, I think, like a kind of a legit knock on him. And the other thing too is like, I don't know if people are remembering that whole 82 game season last year. Like I kind of break it up into 4 segments. The first 19 games when they were pretty healthy and had Zion and Ingram, they won an 11-8. Okay. Still figuring it out. Their best stretch of the year was when Brandon didn't play at all and they gave the ball to Zion. They went 12-6. A stretch that really killed them was no Zion or Ingram, 3-8. And then the last 34 games, they basically had Brandon, no Zion, and they were 16-18. CJ was pretty hurt at that time. But like, we just need to note that was how last season went. Like, don't just remember the last 20 games. That's all I've got to say. Brandon is very good. A very good basketball player. Like I see and I respect all the things that he's good at. Like he just hasn't been allowed to like be a creator that much. I was hoping he could be great otherwise. And I don't know, man. I mean, he's looked pretty good these last 2 games. Like he could play a huge role in the semifinals, this championship game. Like that wouldn't surprise me at all. He like has looked better these past 2 games to me.
Yeah, because this makes more sense on a basketball court. Like that's all I wanted to get out there, was just that like this wasn't just like not the perfect setup. It defies like usual basketball logic. The people that were out there, we were just like the most talented guys play at each position except for point guard. We're going to put the most talent we can on the floor except for point guard. We're going to go backwards on that because experience, I guess, and college championship medal. And I don't know, or familiarity with Luka. I don't know what the extra note was that got Jalen the nod, but and I love Jalen Brunson. I just starting for Team USA when Tyrese Halliburton is on the team doesn't make sense.
Halliburton is just electric, man. I think he's one of my
favorite
players in the league. He's like electric. Are we there?
Yeah. I'm pretty much there. He's like the best point guard in the league. Like he's one of the few true starting point guards that exists now. He can literally do everything.
Well, I don't know, man. Steph Curry, the greatest point guard debate, him and Magic. All right. Well, the last thing I got for you here, did you happen to see Mr. Giannis Antetokounmpo in the New York Times pretty recently?
I did not. You're going to have to catch me up.
Giannis gave an interview to the New York Times just about kind of his future in Milwaukee, where things stand. I will read you the money quote. He's talking about signing an extension. He's got 2 years left in the deal. The real question is not going to be this year. Numbers-wise, it doesn't make sense. But next year, next summer, it would make sense for both parties. Even then, I don't know. I would not be the best version of myself if I don't know that everybody's on the same page. Everybody's going for a championship. Everybody's going to sacrifice time away from their family like I do. And if I don't feel that, I'm not signing.
I mean, this is the thing that we like, ESPN and everybody, this is the thing we're going to make the thing out of for like a year. And it was actually, it was just like the bat signal to say like, I'm still very serious about winning, and you better hear me that you need to be doing everything. Whatever's not nailed down needs to get thrown in here. Makes sense to me. I guess if I'm him, that's what I'd do.
So we've kind of been doing the side A at the Lakers pick this whole time since the Anthony Davis trade. Do you think the Bucks, I guess it's like a pick and 2 swaps incoming, will end up being more valuable? Like, where do you think the Pelicans will ultimately get more value? Like that haul from the Lakers or whatever they got left from the Bucks?
When it comes to draft picks and assuming their future value, I operate on the Pat Riley Miami Heat principle, and that is all picks are bad. Whatever you think they are worse than what they are. We talked about a Miami pick for 3 years when it was Goran Dragic and giant dude, million rebounds, can't actually play. Blanking. Damn it. It'll come to me. Miami Heat were legitimately bad or cash strapped, supposedly could not escape it, can't trade out of the financial problems, paid people they should have never paid. We got guys walking around with fat pockets that are not even playing basketball. And yet Pat Riley got out from all the contracts and got everybody out of there and shipped a guy off to Utah and retired another guy. Next thing you know, those Miami picks were not good. So, generally speaking, I think all the picks are going to turn out to be trash. I think it is up to our friends in the Pelicans front office to make the best they can out of, pick 22 and 25, and be thrilled about it because, hey, at least we have some. I think honestly, I don't really expect to get much in direct value out of those picks. Hopefully we come across an asset worth cobbling them together to, make a final push for. It's hard for me to talk final push and trade assets in any way, shape, or form until I know that my team's like actually going to play together. Which, hey, here's another topic that we probably need to hit before we close out. Zion is working out in front of a cabinet with resistance bands and all sorts of things, and pictures of Zion sweating are out there, and I think he looks good. Maybe he looks good. I don't know. Every year we ask.
That was my exact takeaway. I was like, I think he looks good.
I'm not sure. Does he look good?
And the other part of it is like it can just change so quickly too. So like I'm encouraged. I mean, I think I said earlier this episode, like the word from the Pelicans has been like, look, he's been, for Zion, like pretty engaged this summer. Like I think he's been more engaged this summer than he has in any of the previous summers with the Pelicans. Been around the team a little bit. Seems like he's been a little more communicative. So that's great. I mean, yeah, I think he looks good in those pictures that our buddy Will Guillory of The Athletic put out. Somebody sent him some pictures of Zion getting some gains in. But yeah, man, he looks pretty jacked. I think it was kind of interesting. He said in that interview with Gilbert Arenas, like LeBron laid the blueprint. I mean, I'm curious how much of that he's actually implementing. Like LeBron is a lot of like, I'm going to have great core strength. I'm going to be extremely flexible. Like if he's actually implementing that stuff and like working with good people to make that a part of his routine, I think that's fantastic. I honestly have no idea.
For it. We have begged for it. Like that is the guy that you call and you say, hey, you monstrous body, never seen before athlete, tell me how to take care of my body, which has also never been seen before.
Yeah. I mean, I think, step one is like, are you working out and not just like playing video games and eating bad food? And it's like, it seems like he's working out, and he did last year. He looked great coming into camp last year. That's good. And then the next step is like, are you doing the right things in that workout? And I don't know. I mean, I just have no idea. So I guess I'm cautiously optimistic. It's just so funny with this team, man. It could just go either way, and I have no idea which way it's going to go. It's like funny hearing Woj talk about the Pelicans in his Trey Murphy update. He's like, they've accumulated like, all these great assets. Like they've accumulated a lot of talent, but we just haven't seen it together. And it's like, yeah, I love a lot of this stuff. I just have to see it come together.
Look, I'm just gonna, set myself up for success here, and I'm gonna root for one thing and one thing only that I feel like is going to be reliable, and that is the return of Jose Alvarado. I'm just going to get excited for, my small adult Puerto Rican son, and you just get excited about his year, and then I can't be hurt because there's no shot that he's going to miss another like giant chunk of season. He's going to play a crucial role. I feel like that's like a much lower risk thing to like really sink my heart into and get excited about it, and then I don't have to get hurt.
Let's close out on this. If Jose Alvarado was an item on the menu at Gales, what would he be?
Ooh. Let's see. I mean, hardworking, fits kind of with anybody, can come up big time in a crucial moment.
A little bit of spice.
But you don't necessarily want him on the entree plate. I think he's a classic dessert. I think he's a classic dessert. I think we're going like really sophisticated high-end cheesecake.
Okay.
Cheesecake can both be of the people, but can really elevate sometimes. Like everybody can make a cheesecake. Everybody can have cheesecake. Every restaurant's got cheesecake on the dessert menu, but not everybody has our cheesecake, and everybody wants our cheesecake.
I was gonna say like a stuffed jalapeno, like just a really good stuffed jalapeno like appetizer.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I had to go to where dessert feels more important than appetizer. Though we could go the opposite. You could say the appetizer, and like you don't watch out if you're not careful. Like chips at a Mexican restaurant, you hit the chips and salsa too hard, the entree doesn't matter anymore because the chips already did the job.
So yeah, like I just wanted an element of like, hey, look, this is really good, but it can cause you physical discomfort if you're not careful. Like Chris Paul. Physically uncomfortable during that Sun series.
So then it makes sense to go with the pepper because it's like it might give you a little gastro stuff later on. You may regret it at 3 o'clock in the morning. You will remember that you ate this. You will be reminded that you ate this. I like that. Yeah, we can go that route.
All right. Well, thank you for entertaining my long-winded analogy there. Hope that wasn't too painful for you.
One slight correction for the Kentuckians. You're not going to get away. They might show up in your Menchies over Louisville. Got to get that flat pronunciation in there, Louisville.
Okay, I'll work on it. I won't bring that weak stuff in here again.
Don't bring that. Look, Brett Dawson's going to roll over in on his couch if you're out here saying Louisville. But glad you had a good trip. Glad you saw a little bit of the American heartland on the way out there and got back safely and back into basketball. It's creeping up. We're almost back into real basketball.
All right, Adam. Well, thanks for hopping on, man. We'll talk to you guys again soon.